Would anyone think it's fucking fair if Hamas somehow figured out a way to bomb the fuck out of that and reduce it to rubble? Would anyone think that that's appropriate? We know what people's perspective is. We saw it. Round condemnation. Understandable for the acts that the militants engaged in on October 7th. Round condemnation from the entire world. Oh boy. All right, let's look at some of this nonsensical bullshit from the consistent propaganda going on. Now that Israeli and U.S. officials have pivoted from sheer retaliation to their old human shields excuse, I debunked that argument in 5 points published during last Gaza onslaught.
Point 1. Israel provides no evidence that there are human shields. So
that's not true. Sometimes they will there'll be like one thing from like 2009 or something that they'll always point to, where they'll be like, well, we actually did see weapons in one of these facilities, so it's actually justifiable that the entire Gaza Strip is armed to the fucking gills with weapons. Sometimes they edit videos. That's also true. You know,
so far, the best they can do is share these photoshopped images. See, the building is red. That means Hamas is there.
After providing advanced warnings to civilians in time to evacuate, IDF fighters just struck that multi-story building containing Hamas military intelligence assets, the offices which Hamas hides behind and deliberately uses as human shields. Fucking bullshit.
You know, for all of Israel's sophisticated surveillance technology with eyes over every single inch of Gaza, you'd think that they'd be able to produce more than cartoons. And
Israel uses weapons to protect its civilians. Hamas uses civilians to protect its weapons. Hamas puts Palestinian civilians in the line of fire. This is PragerU, bro. Look at this. It's IDF propaganda, but it is basically fucking PragerU. It's so funny. God, I just, it's so laughable if it wasn't so gross and inhumane. You know what I mean?
And doctored graphics. In fact, the only proof they have provided so far are fake videos of Hamas rockets in residential areas. On May 15th, the IDF published a video of an Israeli training operation using a Hamas decoy, but claimed it was an actual Hamas missile launcher near civilians. In another lie, Netanyahu's spokesman tweeted a video claiming it was Hamas firing rockets next to an apartment building. Turns out this was a video from 2018 in Syria. So where's the actual...
Why is this stream so biased? There are a lot, actually. Brother, what do you mean? I am literally... Yes, I am biased, okay? I'm biased. I'm biased against killing babies, okay? I don't think it's right when Hamas militants do it. I don't think it's right when Israel does it by the tenfold, okay? Yeah, sorry. I know. I'm a bit biased towards baby murder. It's kind of fucked up. I know. Are you not? Is that the argument here? You're like, no, you don't understand. These babies needed to be murdered. They're fucking, they're child shields. They're baby shields.
Actual evidence. If they cannot provide any, their claims must be investigated and brought to a trial. Even if there was evidence that Israel was hitting legitimate military targets, it still is illegal to kill such an outrageous amount of civilians. And you can't legally blow up a hospital, even...
I left those comments about Jewish minority yesterday, and I would like to clarify that I was in no way referring to Palestine and Palestinians. I saw some comments on another video about it, and I don't want to spread hate or misinformation. Jews live for much longer in harmony with others, so my fear is irrational. Was just chatting. I'm glad. We love a king that engages in some self-reflection. You know what I'm saying?
Even if there are militants nearby. Either way, Israel should not be allowed to be above the law.
That's the other side, is like, even if there are human shields, like, you can't kill them. Like, why are we jumping over that point? It blows my fucking mind that we just jump over that point. You cannot kill the fucking human shield. Like, that's bad guy shit. That's not good guy shit.
Point 2. We shouldn't take Israel's claims of human shields at face value, because they have an extensive history of lying about it.
It's true.
I think the most irrefutable example are their killings at Gaza's Great March of Return, which we documented in our film, Gaza Fights for Freedom. At this Great March, Israeli snipers directly targeted and killed 183 unarmed demonstrators, including 35 innocent children at these protests. Journalists marked press, medics performing medical aid, a man in a wheelchair, and so many more. But Israel said they were all human shields.
Yeah.
So
like, what? How can you ever believe the human shield rhetoric after they fucking blew up the Associated Press building, brother? Or after they have time and time again lied openly and been disproven openly? Like, after the 7,000th time, I'll be like, okay, dude, well, I don't think these are human shields. I don't think you should shoot them even if they were, but I don't even believe that there are human shields in this circumstance. I think you're just killing Palestinians. And it's not like they're hiding it. That's what blows my mind. Look, this is not 2018, okay? This is not 2018. This is not 2020. This is 2023, okay? This is 2023. The fucking officials are openly saying we must raise Gaza. They've shut off all the fucking electricity and all the power and all the food. Like, what argument do we have here? Sorry, they were asking for it is like a ridiculous fucking take. I don't believe that it is acceptable to kill human shields regardless, but I don't believe the human shield propaganda either. And also, they don't even do that propaganda anymore. And you guys are still, some of you are still in here being like, yeah, well, you know, what about the human shields argument? And it's like, but they're not even making that anymore. They have starved out Gaza for the past 3-4 days now. Water has run out. There's no fucking water in Gaza. They had to open up water in the south so they can forcibly move the civilian population into the south, after they told the civilian population to evacuate to the south and blew up one of the fucking convoys.
It was all legitimate. Here's where they really exposed themselves. According to international law, human shield applies to civilians as collateral damage when you're targeting military forces in combat. But at the Great March protests, there were no militants, nobody shooting at Israelis, nobody with weapons, no targets remotely connected to military operations. So if all of those children, medics, journalists, and disabled people were human shields, who were they shielding? Even when they killed celebrated female medic Razan al-Najjar, they released a propaganda video saying she was a human shield. But shielding what? Under no circumstances would killing that many civilians at an unarmed protest, with the defense that they were human shields for non-existent military targets, hold up for a second in a war crimes tribunal. Today, Israel relies on the fog of war to make this claim seem possible. But just 2 years ago, Israel showed an irrefutable pattern of lying about human shields, and now they have zero credibility. Hamas offices. Point 3. According to Israel's own definition of human shield, every man, woman, and child in Gaza is a human shield. They claim that anyone in the vicinity of not only Hamas missile sites, but Hamas offices, Hamas individuals, is a human shield.
Yo, Haas, during this discourse, have you experienced much anti-Semitism in the name of anti-colonialism fight and vice versa, racism in the name of so-called solidarity for Israel? I mean, I think we've already basically forcibly expelled so many of the anti-Semites and all of their fucking all of their sock accounts that it's hard to tell you conclusively if there was more anti-Semitism. There were plenty of anti-Semites that we have banned because there are always so many people who love to be like, yeah, so what do you think? Why do you think the media is protecting the Jews so much? Am I right? And it's like classic anti-Semitic bullshit, okay? And we banned them, but I wouldn't say that it has been more than back when I was like talking about Kanye being anti-Semitic, for example. I feel like that was like every single other instance where we've talked about anti-Semitism occurring, I would say that we've banned more anti-Semites. There is definitely a lot more Islamophobia occurring as well. I'm sure that anti-Semitism has skyrocketed too, certainly, in this process. It's just that we're so fucking thorough. We're so thorough with anti-Semitism and the way we deal with it swiftly that, you know, haven't seen too much of it in here, or more of it.
This includes Hamas members who are sleeping at home with their families and the surrounding houses. This includes anyone within a mile of any Hamas institution, which is literally all of the 2 million people who live there. Look, Hamas is the government of Gaza.
Yeah.
Therefore, any civilian infrastructure is considered Hamas.
Yeah. The hospital says Hamas outside of it because Hamas runs the hospital. It's the health ministry. And then motherfuckers go, well, shouldn't have made Hamas the health ministry. It is a disgusting way to justify civilian murder. Okay, that's it.
Infrastructure, everything from transportation to healthcare. So anyone in the vicinity of those things or people can be killed with impunity. Even Israel's Minister of Defense confirmed that this is indeed their view, stating on May 18th that, quote, no person, area, or neighborhood in Gaza is immune from airstrikes. How is it in any way acceptable that Israel can categorize every human being in Gaza a legitimate target? And if you take Israel's logic far enough, they could kill everyone in Gaza, and it would be justified.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing that now. This is an old video, by the way, from Abby Martin, which is, of course, still incredibly prescient because, you know, they're doing it, and they've only escalated it harder.
Point 4. If you accept Israel's definition of human shield, then you have to accept that Israel is using human shields as well. Armed Israeli soldiers are everywhere among civilian areas. Not only that, but their military bases are nestled in densely populated residential areas. For example, the Israeli Defense Forces' main headquarters is smack dab in the middle of a residential sector of Tel Aviv and a major shopping center. Does anyone accuse Israel of using human shields? In another example, the Israeli army...
Would anyone think it's fucking fair if Hamas somehow figured out a way to bomb the fuck out of that and reduce it to rubble? Would anyone think that that's appropriate? We know what people's perspective is. We saw it. Round condemnation. Understandable for the acts that the militants engaged in on October 7th. Round condemnation from the entire world. Which is perfectly fair and perfectly understandable. Okay? However, there is no such condemnation for Israel's actions. It's crazy. Because people do not see Muslims as human beings.
Army broadcasts from a residential apartment tower with antennas on the roof. If Hamas leveled that building, does anyone doubt it would be deemed a war crime? What we have here is a double standard. Israel wants the human shield defense for them to be any civilian they kill. But for any civilian killed by Hamas, it's a war crime. You know, the purpose of international laws of war is to create a standard that's applied to all sides equally. But Israel and the United States have a different view, that the rules only apply to their enemies. That's only because of... Point 5. If everyone in Gaza is a legitimate human shield, that's only because of Israel's own design. This is a situation of Israel's own making. Israel drew the borders, and Israel refuses to let anyone leave. To leave Gaza, you must get approval from the Israeli government, and the government will almost always say no. So what are people supposed to do who want to remove themselves from the carnage? They have literally nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Israel has made Gaza, in every sense of the term, an open-air prison. They trap 2 million civilians in this tiny strip of land. Then they bomb their neighborhoods and say, well, they shouldn't have been there. The mountain of civilian dead has to be looked at through the perspective of the Israeli blockade and the inability of anyone to escape. Resistance forces in Gaza have nowhere else to go to. Gaza's self-defense capabilities are confined to this heavily populated area. And Israel has intentionally made Gaza unlivable. The only way Gaza is able to exert pressure on Israel is by firing rockets.
Why won't they let people leave? Doesn't it work towards their agenda? Great question. Wait, is Gaza a part of Israel? Why did they have their own government? Wait, what? Why won't they let the people leave? Doesn't it work towards their agenda? You mean like, why won't Israel let the people of Gaza leave, right? I think you're understanding certain things now. I hope. There's two different reasons. One, people don't want to leave. When they're under a bombing campaign, there's plenty of people that don't want to leave because they know if they leave, they will never have their home. So they'll die on their feet inside of their houses rather than die months later in a fucking refugee camp in gruesome conditions. So that's one of the reasons why some people choose to not leave and to stay. It is their land after all, and they have seen what happens when they do leave, never to return ever again, never allowed to return ever again. As far as, wait, is Gaza a part of Israel? Why do they have their own government? I'm shocked that you've been a 38-month subscriber, and even today we've described the government of Gaza and its inception and how it was designed after Israel forcibly pulled out of Gaza, specifically so they could start their bombing campaign in Gaza.
Rockets. If they peacefully protest their conditions, they're massacred just the same.
The other part of it is that they didn't just take the 8,000 settlers that were living in Gaza, which was still supposed to be Palestinian land according to international rules in our, rule-based liberal order, right? Supposedly. And then they just relocated them to the fucking West Bank. They just took them out of there and put them in the West Bank anyway. So they kept settling. Settlers can't stop settling. They're like, oh, fuck, I love settling, dude.
If they do nothing, Israel continues to blockade them, erode their living conditions.
Didn't answer the question about why Israel doesn't want Palestinians to leave. Hello? They want to fucking kill them. They want to kill them. They want to kill them super hard. They want to fucking bomb them super duper hard and then allow the humanitarian corridor to take foot so that they can just turn around and say, look how humanitarian we are, that we did a humanitarian corridor. We put them on fucking trains and moved them into a different area. Is an argument that would not work for Nazi Germany, and it should not work for Israel, okay? The humanitarian thing to do in that situation is to stop bombing. What the fuck? I empathize with Palestinians, but the trump card of whataboutisms is ultimately that Hamas wants the death and destruction of Israel and the Jews. You'll never be able to gain enough sympathy and real change until Hamas changes their stance or is removed. Dude, what the fuck are you saying? Flip the argument on its head. Israel's open fucking take on the matter is full-scale death and destruction to the Palestinian population, and it's not even just like their sentiment of wanting to build. Hold on. Their sentiment around wanting to build a Jewish ethno-state, but also their actions, okay? It is fucking ridiculous. And also, you're saying this because you're unfamiliar with the Hamas charter changing in 2017, which is fine. I mean, you don't have to believe it, but you can't run with this argument, okay? And because when I bring up the fact that Hamas in 2017 changed the charter and liberalized it to say that they are for a two-state solution and that they are for living peacefully amongst Christians, Jews, and Muslims across the board, you will turn around and say, oh, really? Do they want to do that? Because they keep fucking bombing Israel. Doesn't seem like they want to do that. And that's precisely why it's like an idiotic argument to entertain to begin with, okay? Israel doesn't have a creed stating so. Brother, look around, okay? Look around. The notion that Hamas is in power in Gaza and therefore the Palestinians deserve what they get is fucking psychotic, okay? It is psychotic. It's bloodthirst. It is not just. It is not moral. Why do you try to defend it? What the fuck?
While ethnically cleansing the rest of their land. Israel has made it so the only leverage Gaza has to get any change is using the one weapon it has, Besides, Gaza has the right to self-defense under international law. And contrary to what Israel claims, the current round of fighting was started by Israel, not Hamas, when they deployed criminal violence against Al-Aqsa and Sheikh Jarrah. And right at the outset, on May 12th, Hamas offered a ceasefire to Israel. Israel rejected it because they wanted to keep going, despite their rhetoric of only wanting the rockets to stop. So if Israel's going to keep bombing, Gaza has no choice but to fight back. And that in turn becomes the excuse for Israel massacring so-called human shields.
Show me specifically what they said is racist type beat. Yeah, 100%. You know why? It's so identical to the arguments that reactionary weirdos fucking put forward. Okay? You want to know why? I love the idea of like claiming that Israel does not have an interest in ethnic displacement of Palestinian people since when the entire nation state's development started with ethnic displacement of Palestinian people. And it's pretty funny to say that, but the reason why it's identical to the show me specifically where they said that is racist, did they ever say the N-word type argument, is because Israel is a fascist project. That's it. That's why. Because you cannot have an apartheid state that is not inherently fascist. You cannot have a religious ethno-state that is not inherently fucking fascist. The maintenance of an apartheid state is always going to be violent because violence is required for the maintenance of an apartheid state. That's it. And there are plenty of examples of Ben-Gurion and numerous other fucking leaders and founding fathers, including Theodore fucking Herzl, who has said that this is a colonial project. So I don't know why you're fucking coming in here if you don't know the point. If you don't know what the fuck like the founding creed is of the development of an Israeli nation state being a colonial project when the founding fathers of Israel themselves said that it was so, I don't know who you're arguing against. You're just arguing out of ignorance. So ask yourself, why is it that the first fucking thing you say, why is it that in all of your endless ignorance of this situation, why are you still so defensive? Why are you defensively posturing? Seriously, Sex Machine 69. A beacon of shining light in this fucking chat. A brilliant interlocutor. Ask yourself, why is it that you reflexively defend this without full knowledge? Why are you defensively posturing? It makes no sense. New Philosopher King, Sex Machine. Yeah. Not only did the Hamas charter change, okay? We showed you through historic documents time and time again that even Hamas, which I think is a fundamentalist Islamist project, of course, I know that that is the case, which of course was also developed and propped up by the Israeli state, but that's a different story for a different time. Okay? I'm on mobile and this is defense, this is reality. I'm focused on the reality of change. No, you're not. If you say Israel doesn't have a creed stating that it is supposed to be designed around ethnically displacing Palestinians, then you are literally the most oblivious person I've ever fucking seen. Not only are you silly because you have not heard Theodore Herzl himself directly mention this, not only have you not seen many other Zionist founding fathers mention that this is supposed to be a colonialist project, you also are oblivious to the reality of the matter at hand. Over the course of the past 75 years, Israel has maintained a brutal occupation that quite literally is by everyone on the planet's objective measurements an apartheid state. How can you deny this? How can you deny what the Human Rights Watch and the Amnesty organization is saying, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and numerous other fucking NGOs? How can you deny the reality of Israel refusing to go by the UN Charter, even though UN is supposedly the reason why Israel exists to begin with? It's ridiculous. Don't fucking try to argue against someone else, loser. Explain what your position is. How can you defend this? Herzl, it is not accustomed. It is not in your accustomed line. It doesn't involve Africa, but a piece of Asia Minor. Not Englishmen, but Jews. How then do I happen to turn to you, since this is an out of the way matter for you? How indeed? Because it is something colonial. Theodore Herzl proudly said Zionism is something colonial in a letter he wrote to Cecil Rhodes. He literally used the term himself. You disingenuous hack. He's shitting on the Mosaic magazine argument in 2018 when, yes, calling Israel a settler colonial project is anti-Semitic, said Ben Cohen. History is anti-Semitic, I guess, when you fucking adequately explain what other people have. Anti-Zionist Israelis may now possibly be jailed, have their property seized for both the dissemination of information that undermines the morale of Israel's soldiers and residents in the face of the enemy, serves as a basis for enemy propaganda, including spreading the enemy's propaganda messages or info that aids the enemy in its war against Israel. That's fucking nuts. What the fuck? Likud minister formulates emergency regulations to imprison citizen who harm national morale. What the fuck? Oh my God. This is exactly what I have said time and time again. If you are a part of the Zionist project in the maintenance of an apartheid state, even if you are personally a liberal Zionist, it will inevitably come back to haunt you. This is how this works. Holy shit. Ben Gurion, first prime minister of Israel. We must expel the Arabs and take their places. Not at all. I'm talking about the reality of change. How is that defense? You can't get enough global support for the change you or the Palestinians want with Hamas in power unless there's a drastic change. Bitch, no one is saying Hamas should be the fucking leading charter or that they've done. Dude, shut the fuck up. What are you saying right now? You put that position in my mouth as opposed to the reality. For the past week, I have talked about the historic reasons as to how Hamas rose to power, how Israel propped Hamas up, specifically as an effort to thwart any kind of Palestinian national identity movement. You are such a fucking asshole for coming in here, being oblivious to the reality of how Israel is a settler colonial project, both in practice, but also even in the theoretical formation of the fucking state. And now you're turning around and making it seem like there's people in here saying Hamas is like the real reason why Palestinians can't find liberation is Hamas. Shut the fuck up. That is not the real reason. You so dumb, Haas. He's talking reality. It's ridiculous. Oh, they can't get global support for the change or you or the Palestinians want. That's so crazy. Do you want to tell me what level of fucking global support existed for Yasser Arafat? Was there a lot of global support in that circumstance? Was there a lot of global support after 1948? When was there global support for the Palestinians? At the most, you had Arab nationalist movements that failed dramatically. And also, even in that circumstance, their actions were against Israel in general, not necessarily for the emancipation of Palestinians, and they mistreated Palestinians too. People forget the Jordanian military killed more fucking Palestinians in the occupation than Israelis did at that time frame. Fuck out of here. I'm talking reality here. No, you're not. You are oblivious to the reality because you have no historical frame of reference. You've just been fed propaganda after propaganda. And instead of like doing a deeper dive and trying to fucking comprehend what actually happened on the ground, you just come in here and try to fucking lay the blame on Palestinians. Yeah, it's the Palestinians' fault. That's why. How is that any different than what Benjamin Netanyahu says?
Time this term has been used to state-sponsored mass slaughter. Human shield propaganda has been long applied by the empire to dehumanize the enemy in nearly every major world conflict or war, from its atrocities in Korea to Iraq. And it always serves the same purpose: to dehumanize entire populations, giving the perpetrators a free pass to act with total disregard for civilian life. What the Israeli government is trying to do is cover up what their military is actually doing: which is indiscriminate bombing. That seems glaringly apparent, and international law is very clear about indiscriminate attacks being a war crime, strictly prohibited in any situation. To sum it all up, it is completely outrageous to let Israel make this blanket claim to absolve itself of any wrongdoing. All of those lives taken had value. They all had families. They all had futures they were robbed of. It's not fair, and it's not right to be able to wash away their deaths with such an audacious lie. This is an unconscionable situation. What everyone should agree on is that if an army, especially a colonizing power...
Y'all kids are going to look back and cringe that you formed your opinions based on Hasan takes. Arguing against 14-year-old chatters, but cowers from actual intellectuals who want to debate. Actual intellectuals who want to debate on what? What the fuck are you talking about? The talking points are going to be the same regardless, which is hilarious. Like, what, you fancy yourself to be an actual intellectual, dumbass? Only with crazies like Hasan having an audience can a world exist where folks call Israel Nazis. Peddling biased takes in a situation like this is deadly. Blood will be on his hands. Bro, what are you talking about? We're in the eve of a fucking 6-year-old Palestinian being stabbed to death 26 times by their fucking landlord in the supposed day of jihad, and you're over here being like, blood is on my hands. Bitch, if you're defending Israel's actions right now, blood is already on your hands. What the fuck do you mean? It's so utterly gross, dude. It is so disgusting.